Hăīre, φίλε, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 5, verses 4 through 5. So this is where we get another textus receptus verse with verse 4, and then verse 5. All of verse 5 is still textus criticus. Anyway, last time we had 1 through 3. Here is our rubric, everything that we look for as we go through the text. Let's get started. Angelos gar kata kairon kate bainen en te kolumbethrai kai etarasen to hudor ho un protos en bas metatein tarakein tu hudatos hugies ageneto hoi depote kat ekato no se mati en de tis anthropos ke triaconta kai ecto ete ekon en te asthenei autu. Kind of let that autu dangle. Well, in verse 4, angelos, we have omicron sigma, therefore a clear nominative singular masculine subject. Gar telling us that this is the explanation for the textus receptus part of verse 3. Kata is prepositional phrase. Kata bainen, we have a verb right there, so prepositional phrase ends here. Note that we have the augmenting vowel at the front between the prefix and the stem, but we still have our present stem here with bain, bino, and epsilon nu is the third person singular ending. Since we still have the present stem but a augmenting vowel, we know that this is going to be imperfect tense, and it is active and indicative with angel as the subject. Now we can go back to our prepositional phrase. Kata is taking accusative with that omicron nu right there, and this is singular and masculine. And when you pair kata with cheiron, kata with accusative means along or upon, and then cheiron is a type of time. There are two types of time. There's chronos, and then there's this one, of course. I cannot remember the distinction between the two, but there is an actual distinction. But when you pair kata with cheiron, you can have the idea of at the proper time, possibly at intervals. I'm not so sure, as sure about that one. So I'm going to go with at the proper time. Then we have prepositional phrase en plus the dative here. And this is going to be feminine because of that eta in the article, and singular. Kolumbethrai, this is the word that we had previously for pool. And our clause ends here. So I'm going to go ahead and write all that down. Quick note before we continue with the imperfect, we have and now I can't remember the name of the specific way of translating it, but I put used to with the idea here that whatever scribe may have inserted this verse into the text is aware that it's not going on anymore. And there are probably theological arguments that we could bring up around that, like the angel doesn't need to do it anymore because the creator of life, Jesus, has come and he's conquered sin and death, and so such work by the angel is no longer necessary. But then, did it actually happen? Who knows? Let's move on. Kai etarasen, we've got another epsilon nu here, augmenting vowel at the front, and this is from tarasso, so we have a present stem again, therefore same form as katabainen. So I'm going to bring that down. To hudor as our object, to, the neuter article, accusative, singular. And this is just saying what the angel did, and used to stir, because it's still in the same concept, the water. Moving on. Un, therefore, because all of this happened, ho protos, the first one, and bos, we have alpha, sigma right there from, again, I think bino. But this time we have the prefix n, where the nu becomes a mu. Os off of this, just the beta stem is a aorist form. This is going to be a participle for nominative, singular, masculine, active participle. Meta prepositional phrase, tain, tarakain, tu hudatos. As genitive doesn't belong in the prepositional phrase, though it does own it. Meta taking the accusative here with the eta nu. And meta with the accusative shows time after which. And singular, feminine. And you can see that we've got the tara here, as we have the tara here. The double sigma, and the verb is a key in the noun form of it. So after the stirring of the water, you don't need to parse that since we already have it up here. Don't need to parse these either because we already know them as nominative. All right, and jumping back, we actually finally come to our main verb, egeneto, epsilon tau omicron with the augmenting vowel at the beginning. And here we have another imperfect, but this is from ginomai, I think. Always get that mixed up with that other gamma verb, whatever. So we've got another imperfect from these two, except this time we've got the deponent. Otherwise it's the same. And didn't leave myself enough room. And indicative. And used to become hugies. Eta sigma there is the masculine or feminine nominative singular ending of this third declension. No, it's just the masculine because it's hugies, hugiei. No, hugies, hugieia. So I should actually write that down. So it's that type. It's the type of third declension adjective that has this interesting assortment of nominative endings. We've got a typical first declension for the feminine, but then third declensions for the masculine and the neuter. So I was going to write down common, then I remembered that no, do have eia as the other option. For most of them, there are a few of these where it's only ace s. I have a book, not here with me, but I think I have a book that lists a few of the ones where it's only a double termination. Anyway, so used to become, well, healthy, sound, that sort of thing. Hoi, depote, these two together give the idea of the English word whatever, but we've got it in the dative singular sense, but the gender we're going to have to wait until we come to its referent. Ka, te, keto, got another epsilon tau omicron, a augmenting vowel, which is then combined, which has elided. No, it's not elided. I'm forgetting my terms. Too much reading of Hebrew and other things. It's combined with the other epsilon, so that we get epsilon iota, and this is going to be a passive form of echo, but kateko. Kata? No, it'd be kateko, but still a third singular imperfect tense, and it is passive, and indicative, showing that he was this. If you recall, with the way that it talks about sickness in Greek, you use the word echo for talking for expressing that. Peter's mother-in-law was having unwell, and then Jesus comes and he heals her, and she's no longer having unwell. And we've seen it before a few times. So, why do I explain this? Because I don't know. Let's move on. Nosemati, we've got our iota right there. This is what would be the nominative form. Nosema. I have it written down. So that's the nominative form right there. The tau is our dative. Tau iota is our dative with hoi. This is a neuter. So this also becomes neuter. No, becomes is acknowledged as. And this is the word for disease. So with this dative, we would say it would mean something like respect. I think agent is another good option. I assume the Latin is going to put a ablative of agent here if it's going to replicate this exactly. But by whatever disease he was being held back, by which at any time, so on and so forth. And now we return to the more accepted text. Ain, we've seen that verb many times before. We don't need to take a look at it again. De, again, we don't need to look at that. Tis is our relative pronoun, so we would say a certain anthropos, omicron sigma for our subject. Don't need to parse that. A adverb showing location. Triakanta, not a verb, not a verb, not a verb. Ekon, here we have omega nu for a participial form of echo. It's going to be nominative, singular, masculine to go with anthropos. Present stem, epsilon key. and is active and not indicative. I say indicative too much. It gets stuck in there. In prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrase. Wrong right there. So prepositional phrase has to end here. Main verb is ein. So we've got, and there was a certain man there. Triakonta kai octo. These are both indeclinable, but they go together because of the chi. The chi is probably an editorial insertion rather than from one of the... No. It could be from one of the variant texts, but it makes sense for it to be there since the way that you talk about tens plus a single-digit number is you include a conjunction. So yeah, it belongs, at least for making clear sense. You don't have to, as with inflected languages. Ate is our accusative, unusual plural, which I think I talked about last time it showed up. And neuter, noun. So, and there was a certain man there, 38 years, having in astheneia, dative, singular, feminine, plus dative in the preposition, and that's an accusative preposition. And this is a word for sickness. We've got disease, sickness. Again, I don't really know the distinction that's being made here. So in the last page, verse 3, I think it was verse 3, it talked about like the people who are dried up, and that described how they were, I think, paralytics. So each of these probably has a older meaning, which would give a more vivid description of what type of sickness it is than just sickness and disease. But I don't know what those are, and I'm sorry, I'm packing up. I'm leaving here, so I don't really have time to go into that level of depth. Apologies. But anyway, need to write this down. Genitive, singular, masculine. Okay, so there we are with all of that. Let's take a look at it in its own context. For angel at proper time used to descend in the pool and used to stir the water. Therefore, the first one, or the first man, going in after the stirring of the water, used to become healthy by whatever disease he was being held back. And there was certain man there 38 years having in his sickness. A better way of saying this rather than by would be from, but we don't have a preposition in there for that, and I don't remember if it's a typical thing for the dative to do that without a preposition. But that might just be a idiosyncrasy of English, where we use separation for things like sickness. All right, well, thank you very much for taking a look at this with me. I hope it has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. Farewell.